Good morning. I am Dr. Sandeep Sugadan, and today's lesson will be on population and sampling. A population is the entire group that you want to draw conclusions about, while a sample is the specific group that you will collect data from. Please understand that sample is a subset of the population from where we are collecting data. Population is the entire group to which the findings from the sample will be projected to, or population is the entire group that you want to draw conclusion about from the sample. The size of the sample is always less than the total size of the population because sample is a part of the population being surveyed. Let us go through some examples of population and sample. First example is population is the total undergraduate students in Malaysia. That is an example of population. Total undergraduate students in Malaysia. Now we can go to the sample. Sample will be 300 undergraduate students from 3 private universities in Malaysia who consent to participate in your research. So sample is a part of the population. Population is whole undergraduate community in Malaysia. Sample is 300 undergraduate students from 3 private universities in Malaysia who consent to participate in your research. Another example, population is the community of nurses in Malaysia. It includes all practicing nurses in Malaysia. But the sample will be 100 nurses from 2 district hospitals in Perak State, Malaysia who volunteer to participate in your research. So 100 nurses are selected from 2 district hospitals in Perak State, Malaysia. So that forms the sample. Now we can learn two terms, reference population and source population. Reference population is the entire group of individuals to which the findings obtained from the sample will be referred to. We are collecting data from the sample, we are analyzing that data, and we are getting some findings from the sample. That findings from the sample will be referred to a population. It is a larger population, right? It is the same as the population of this study. And the findings in the population are known as parameter. So parameter is a term you will be hearing in statistics classes. So parameter is related to the population or reference population. Source population is the group of individuals from which the samples of the study will be selected. It is also known as sampling frame. Source population is a subset of reference population. Sample is a subset of source population. Sample is selected from source population. Source population is otherwise known as sampling frame. Okay, now we can see some examples of reference population, source population. Okay, reference population, undergraduate students in Malaysia. All the undergraduate students in Malaysia is the reference population. Source population in that context is undergraduate students from 3 selected universities in Malaysia. That is the source population. Another example, the reference population is secondary school students from Perak State. All the secondary school students from Perak State form the reference population. But source population is secondary school students from 5 selected schools in Perak State. That is source population. Source population is otherwise known as sampling frame. From the source population or sampling frame only, we are selecting the samples. Sampling frame is the source population from which a sample is drawn. Sample is a subset of sampling frame. Sampling frame is a subset of reference population. Understood? Sampling frame includes a list of all those within a source population who can be sampled. Okay. And may include individuals, households, or list of institutions also. So sampling frame can be list of individuals, list of households, or list of institutions. Sample is selected from the source population or sampling frame. Okay, some examples of samples. Sample, one example is 300 undergraduate students from 3 selected universities in Malaysia. We are selecting 300 undergraduate students that form a sample. 200 secondary school students from 5 selected schools in Perak State. That also is an example of sample. Sample is also known as study participants. If the study is on diabetes among elderly population in a state, all the elderly population in that state form the reference population because findings from the study, findings from the sample will be referred to them. So all the elderly population in the state form the reference population. Now we can see who will be the study population or sampling frame. Elderly population from 4 selected villages in the state. All the elderly population from 4 selected villages in the state form the study population or sampling frame. Okay, now we can see samples. Samples will be selected from these 4 selected villages or from the sampling frame or from the study population. How many samples are selected? 300 elderly individuals selected from these 4 villages form the study participants or samples. Okay, is it clear? Reference population, study population, otherwise known as sampling frame. Then from that samples or study participants are selected. Sampling is the selection of a subset of individuals from within a population to estimate characteristics of the whole population. Okay, subset of population or sample is selected randomly so that each one of the population gets an equal chance to be selected in the sample. Okay, so if you are selecting sample randomly, so each one of the population or each one of the sampling frame will get an equal chance to be selected in the sample. Sample should be representative of the population from which sample is selected. Okay, sample should be representative of the population. If it is not representative of the population, it will be known as biased sample. Some bias is there. Understood? So sample should be representative of the population from which sample is selected. Findings obtained from a sample is known as statistic. So two terms we have to learn: what is statistics, what is parameter. Statistic is the value or finding obtained from a sample is known as statistic. Findings obtained from a population is known as parameter. Statistic from the sample, parameter from the population. Let us go through one example. A market researcher surveys 85 people on their coffee drinking habits. The researcher wants to know whether people in the local region are willing to switch their drink to something new. Okay, so in this example, what is sample? Sample is 85 people. She surveys 85 people from the locality. Yeah, sample is the 85 people surveyed, while the population is all the people in the local region. Yeah, the market researcher analyzes the data that she collected from participants and finds that 61% of the survey respondents are willing to switch their regular drink to something new. What is 61% referred to? Okay, so that's a 61% is the finding that she obtained from survey respondents or sample. So it will be statistic. 61% is referred to as statistic because it is a measure taken from the sample. In contrast, a parameter is the measure concerning a population. Thank you.